Andrew Tate. We've been here 3 years in the making and we're finally here.
My enemies truly believe in their heart I am the bad guy. It's the same with Trump. Trump can come along, secure their border, reduce the drugs, make them richer, fix their country, and they'll still hate him. Every time I've made millions and millions of dollars, the next day I prepare for something bad to happen. I'm competing against the world which is trying to convince young men that if they chop their dicks off, they become a girl.
I gotta be honest, I was expecting to walk into the house and there'd be stripper poles and, 13 Latinas in the lounge. And when I walked in, you were sat there, shirt off, laptop on, with Tristan, working away.
My life is just work. But that's boring, right? I don't think my mom has any problem with anything I say. She may have said a few times, Andrew, you're really making them mad. And I'll say, good. Every man knows it. Every man's seen it. No man will say it. What are they scared of?
Is this something you're facing every single day?
Yeah. There's a cost for everything.
Why do you want so much life admin of all these women and all these wives and all these children?
But look at Elon. He's done far more amazing things. He has 11 children from 4 women. He's the best Diablo player on the planet. He owns Twitter. He's going to space. He owns Tesla. He's now working for the government. It's amazing how much you can get done if you're genuinely dedicated to purely working.
But Elon stopped at 4 and Andrew hasn't.
No, I haven't. Men build the cities. Men build the roads. Men build. Women give us the children. Well, birth rates are collapsing. And we've built more than we've ever built.
Me and you both know that feminism wasn't created by women, it was taught to women. How many wives did your dad have, though?
Say again?
How many wives did your dad have?
The man will sit there and go, I love my chick, I'm loyal. If you go into a store that sells bananas, and that's all it sells, and you buy a banana, you can't say you like bananas. There's no options.
Were you two in the cell together eventually?
Yeah, at the first we weren't, but then...
There's a few stories about female prison guards that I've heard that may or should be told on this podcast.
I mean, I can say some really controversial things. In fact, I'll say them. Let's go.
Andrew Tate. We've been here 3 years in the making and we're finally here.
Yeah, I think we were talking back in Dubai before my adventure through the Romanian legal system. We were talking about perhaps doing something back then, but I got caught up with a small issue.
You've been on your own path, something which we couldn't see coming.
Well, I would say I've been on DCOT's path. I've been on the judicial system's path. But, it's been enjoyable. It's been interesting.
I wanted to start with a question that I think will allow you to clarify and articulate exactly what's going on in your life and world right now. Because you've been called the saviour of young men and a danger to society. Do you see the truth in both perspectives?
Absolutely. There's always truth in both perspectives. How can you be the savior of young men without also being a danger to society, especially a society which is demonizing young men? If the society is deliberately trying to demonize masculinity and damage young men and destroy the masculine spirit of resistance, then you are their savior and a threat to society at the same time. I understand why my enemies call me a threat. I understand why they don't like what I say. I understand why they want me to disappear. But that doesn't mean I'm not helping the people who I'm trying to help. So in fact, I would say that it'd be impossible for the first statement, that I'm the savior of young men, to be true without being deemed a threat. So there's no light without dark. Equal and opposite forces is extremely important, which is actually why I believe I'm so monumentally well known. My haters don't realize that without the opposite pushback, without the opposing force to the things I say, I wouldn't be nearly as viral anyway. The fact that every single thing I post, half the people agree, half the people hate me, the comment sections go wild. The algorithm picks it up. Like they do me a favor, these people trying to get rid of me. And they're threatened by me, and they're threatened by my ideas, and I understand why, because my ideas are based in the reality of brutal competence. I believe that life is a meritocracy, and those who deserve to win are going to win, and those who try hard are going to win, and that the universe gives everybody what they deserve. And if you have everything you've ever wanted, you deserve it. And if you don't have what you want, you don't deserve it. So the liberals and the people who hate me, who sit around on on anxiety meds and Xanax, or sad, and they're depressed and they're overweight, they look at the world in a completely different way. To adopt my mindset would be destructive to them, because then they have to admit that they are the reason they failed. Instead, they rather pretend someone else is the reason they failed, or something else, systematic racism or capitalism. So they don't like to adopt my worldview. So for that reason, they see me as a threat, because if my worldview is adopted, then people like them will be seen as what they are, which is losers. And losers don't want to be recognized as losers globally. So I completely understand it. Both of those statements are absolutely true.
Who do you see as your enemy right now?
Well, I think we all have enemies. You can look at it from the perspective of people who make rap songs after living in the ghettos, saying that if you don't have haters, you don't matter. Or you can look at the highest level politicians on the planet. If you don't have people trying to take you down, you don't matter as a person. If you don't have a criminal case in a country like Romania after being globally famous, you're a nobody. I mean, this is Romania. I'm one of the most famous people in the world. Of course I caught the case. It's just one of those countries. It's how the world works in most places. You'd catch a case in America. Trump did. Matt Gaetz did. All these people who are high level in the Trump admin are catching cases for saying a fraction of the things I've said. And we're in a country now which can be bought. So of course I caught a case. So it's just the way it is. I don't think you're ever going to be able to go through life and do anything significant without having a huge portion, a huge considerable contingent of the population desperate to try and induce your downfall. And I'm happy for that. I know it's kind of cliche to say that my haters are a symbol of success. But when I see people making accounts dedicated to trying to damage my influence and damage my happiness or my contentment, I am flattered. I'm genuinely flattered by that. That's how I know I'm doing well. So you need the equal and opposite forces. There wouldn't be fan accounts if there wasn't hater accounts. I really am, truthfully, a light and dark guy. I always have been. I've never looked at the light in my life and expected it to exist outside of the dark. Every time I've made millions and millions of dollars, the next day I prepare for something bad to happen. That's just how my mind works. I'd make all that money and I'd sit there and I'd be stressed. And the chick would say, why are you stressed? You just got paid $30-40 million. Why are you stressed? And I say, no, because this is when the bad thing comes. Now I'm worried. I'm preparing for the bad thing. There's no such thing as a free $30 million. There's no such thing as free being the most famous man in the world. These things have a cost. These things have a price. And it has to be paid.
I got to be honest, I was expecting to walk into the house and there be stripper poles and, 13 Latinas in the lounge. And when I walked in, you were sat there, shirt off, laptop on, with Tristan, working away. It's like, I think the perception that people have potentially on the outside and what's actually going on in your day-to-day life isn't in polarity.
Oh, absolutely, because my life is just work. But that's boring, right? But that's the truth about it. I'm on my laptop all day, every day. I have 18 hours a day of screen time. I'm either training or I'm working. Do I know some women? Yes, of course. Do I have some fancy cars to drive? Yes. Can I go to the odd restaurant? Yes. But the majority of the time, all I do is work because that's what I enjoy to do. I don't think most things outside of work are as entertaining as the work itself. That's why I'm successful. Yeah, I do have women who I know, and yeah, I can have that crazy lifestyle, and I did it for a while. But I wouldn't even say it's empty. People get successful and they start to say, oh, I'm above that. It's empty. It's empty. It's vaporous. That's true. I just don't think it's as fun as working. I think just winning is fun. I think the whole point of life as a man is competition in the first place. You need to work to win. You can show off the women and cars and money and traveling and private jets and lifestyle are an easy way to peacock and show off your success. There's a word I'm looking for. I never lose my words. What's the word I'm looking for? Can't find it. Very unusual. But they are a result of success. So what you do is when you make a whole bunch of money, you can't just show your bank balance all the time, right? So instead you show a lifestyle. That's what you do. You show a lifestyle to say, look how successful I've been. Here's how fantastically I've done in my business. So here's the lifestyle to reflect it. But once you get to a certain point where you're known internationally for that lifestyle and you're known globally for making the money, you don't need to show off anymore. So it's like, okay, well, I'll just rather just make the money. It is kind of fun. I'm not going to lie. I'm not saying I'll never do it. I'm not saying I'm above it. I'm not trying to pretend I'm a saint. But most of the time, I'm just working.
Quick one for you guys. If you're loving this conversation and you're getting immense value, consider hitting that subscribe button and turn the notification bells on, as it lets us know that we're creating the right content for you at the right time.
Yeah, I think you have to show the lifestyle to some degree in order to attain not only the influence that you have on the world, but in terms of your businesses are attached to the lifestyle. People are aspiring to that lifestyle to get involved in working with you, to come to your university and all that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah, that's part of it. But yeah, and also we live in an attention economy, which is another part of it. But I think that I break it down in a different way. I think a lot of people see me doing the things I'm doing and they don't understand exactly why I go down such base instincts. In fact, I've been insulted with that. They're like, Andrew Tate's made all this money. All he wants to do is sleep with women and drive cars and go on jets and show off and spend money. But when you're trying to, in a feminized world, when you're trying to appeal to young men, the easiest way to do that is our base instincts. I mean, we can sit and talk all day about how civilized we are. And we are. We're a civilized society. We're civilized people. But there's also animalistic base instincts we all have. One of the base instincts that men have is the procurement of females. They like the idea of having sexual access. Because typically it's the females that have the sexual choices, not the men. Most men take what they can get. To be a man with sexual choices is unique in the world. Always has been. Kings had multiple women, and the average dude was lucky he got one. That's just how it worked. A lot of men got none, and they died without children. So there's sexual access, and then geographical freedom's another one. Just being in a different location every day, a different country every day for a month is a completely different lifestyle that most people live. So it's just showing that you're not constrained by the matrix and you're trying to appeal to people's base instincts, which is freedom, sexual access, the capability of making money, and having also brotherhood is an extremely important one. The reason I'm always with my brother and I'm always with my friends, a lot of guys are I wouldn't say jealous or envious of, but they look at that and say, that's the life I want to live. I think all men want to live that way. So yeah, it is my life. They are the things I like to do. But primarily it is part of the appeal for the young men who are growing up in the world today, because what is the alternative they're being told? You have to be a polar opposite to the thing you're trying to destroy. And I may be an exaggerated polar opposite. There are some people who agree with me who say, yes, you know what, you say the right things, but you say them too strong or you do it too much. I'm an exaggerated polar opposite, but I'm competing against the world which is trying to convince young men that if they chop their dicks off, they become a girl and that men can have babies. So who's the exaggerated one? They are. They're the exaggerated psychopath. So I've had to create an exaggerated character to counterbalance it. Perhaps if we lived in a world of sanity, my exaggerated version of masculinity and sexual access and money and all these things wouldn't be required. But it is. So you have to fight fire with fire. I wouldn't even say that my exaggeration is purposeful, but it's kind of interesting. We can actually analyze this from a completely different point. It's interesting how, you know when you're a child and they say, don't do that, it makes you want to do it? It's interesting how even as grown-ups, we're exactly the same, right? We're living in a world now where if I go on a yacht with a whole bunch of beautiful women, all the feminists get upset. If they didn't get upset, I wouldn't want to do it. But now when I'm filling up my yacht, I'm like, if I get even more girls, they'll get more mad. And they motivate you by their discontentment. That's just how the world works. We're all, to a degree, human. We're all, to a degree, petty. We're all, to a degree, going out there trying to annoy our enemies. So it's kind of how it works. So it's interesting, if we wanted to do a thought experiment, how the more extreme a viewpoint, how it creates in and of itself the equal and opposing extreme viewpoint. If they were sensible, I would be less extreme. But they're not sensible, so I am more extreme. Not even on purpose. It's just how they're self-fulfilling prophecies, because there is no light without dark.
Yeah, there isn't. And what is your opinion of how you operate as a man from like your mum and your sister and stuff like that? Because obviously the family must come into it some way. They must have an opinion. I know that when I go around the world and do certain things that my mum and my sister will have an opinion on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Now, regardless, I'm not going to listen to their opinion because obviously I run my life autonomously. Yeah. But they have an opinion. Yeah. And how does that opinion affect you?
Yeah, I'm pretty unapologetic. And I think that the fact I'm unapologetic means they don't tell me too much because they know what my answer is going to be. I don't believe I'm doing anything wrong or bad. In fact, I think I'm doing good things. And I do have to keep myself in check because there's a lot of people doing bad things who don't think they're doing bad things. And that's why they do them. It's a lot of people going through the world right now saying, I'm not doing bad things. I'm doing good things. And they're actually damaging society. It even gets more complicated when you understand that whether they are doing good or doing bad depends on what side of the fence you stand on. So to some people, they are doing good. To other people, they are doing bad. And then you get into the subjectivity of the world, which is how most things work. So I do try to keep myself in check and make sure that I am not doing anything genuinely harmful to society, especially when my haters are saying that I'm the worst person in the world. You have to sit and say, am I the worst person in the world? Am I damaging society? And you have to make that decision. But I've analyzed it head to toe, and I believe that in the end, what I am teaching people is the good thing, is the right thing. Even just the fact that I'm teaching people to have mental resilience and control That alone is enough in a world where 60% of people are popping pills and are sad all the time, and male depression is going through the roof. People are committing suicide. Even just teaching men to be happy within themselves and control their own minds makes me believe I'm doing the right thing. And yeah, I can live an adventurous life, and yeah, I can do some crazy things, but I believe the ends justify the means. However, I'm very aware that most people believe this about themselves. This is how people operate. So you have to be very human, and you have to come to your own conclusions, and then you have to take yourself outside of your mind and look at it from above and say, if I wasn't me, would I believe that? It's the same with nearly every decision being made in the world today, right? You can have a factory, and you can hire a bunch of illegal immigrant workers, and you can say you're doing the right thing because those illegal immigrant workers now have a chance to make money and send money home and feed their children back in Tijuana. But the people around you are unhappy with all the illegal immigrants in their city. So you're the bad guy to the people around you, and you're the good guy to the illegal immigrant worker, and you're doing it because you get to save money. And you're justifying it yourself. You're justifying the virtue. You're saying, I'm a good person because I get to help these people, but really you want to save the money, and a whole bunch of people in the town actually hate you for it. So are you the good guy? Are you the bad guy? Well, it depends what side of the fence you stand on. My enemies truly believe in their heart I am the bad guy. And it's not only me. It's the same with Trump. Trump can come along, secure their border, reduce the drugs, make them richer, fix their country, and they'll still hate him. They will still hate him because he said something once. That's how their mind works.
But what I'm saying is when you ring your mum to say, hey mum, how are you? How is England? I know you've probably paid her mortgage off. She's living a good life in Luton. She's loving it. She's going down the shop. She's getting everything she wants, right? But what is her opinion she puts into your ear that perhaps, the world doesn't understand?
Well, I think she understands that the ends justify the means also. I think she is truly 100% on my side. She said the people who are against you are crazy and everyone's over-exaggerating. And also, although I've said a lot of hyperbolic things, I pushed the limit. And the reason I pushed the limit is because, as I said earlier, our enemies have pushed the limit. Really, a lot of the things I'm saying were common sense only 10, 15 years ago. I don't think I've said anything really, truly that extreme. What have I said? A man's a man, a woman's a woman. I said that a man should protect and provide, a woman should listen to her man and let him guide her. I said that women can't drive. I mean, come on. Everyone can have a panic attack if they want. You watch any older movie. You watch any movie from the 80s when the couple get in the car, who drives? The man. And there's some kind of remarkable, mind-bending insanity that I say that, and people have a mental breakdown. But it's just the reality of it. I feel more comfortable with a man driving my car. So my mom actually agrees with a lot of the things I say. Loads of people do. I've never really had any intelligent pushback or debate about the things I've said. What I have is complaints about how I've said them. That's what I get most often. It's not very often someone sits down and says, I'm unhappy with your view on this. They'll say, well, why do you talk that way? Why did you say it that way? Can't you be less abrasive? And my answer to them is no, I cannot. I want to talk this way. I'm a full-grown man. I'll be as abrasive as I want to. I want to have my viewpoint etched into your mind when I speak. So I could say that women are weaker than men, or I could say that females are physically incompetent because it bothers you. But because it bothers you, you remember it and you think about it. And the only reason I'm talking is so that you listen to me and so that it goes into your mind and so you think. The whole point of being a man in the first place is to leave a footprint on this earth. That's why we came to be. That's why men explored the entire planet, to be the first person to explore that country, the first person to build that tower, the first person to win that fight. That's the reason men enter the cage and risk their lives. That's the whole point of it. If I speak, I'm going to leave an imprint on your mind or I'm not going to fucking talk to you. That's why I'm talking. So no, I won't be less abrasive. That's how I want to speak. There are times where I need to be less abrasive. I'm an adult. I'm not a dummy. There's times when you're in court, you need to be a little bit nicer. To a police, you're a little bit nicer, etc. But I'm also an extremely successful man. And I don't have to talk to any of you people. So if I'm going to talk to somebody, I'm the A side. It's at my whim, my discretion. And if I'm going to talk to you, I'm going to talk to you how I like. This is the thing the BBC couldn't stand. The BBC would sit down with me and ask me all these stupid questions. I'd completely destroy them. And they were like, oh, why does he talk that way? Because you need my interview. No one cares about the BBC. I'll talk to you however I want, or I won't talk to you at all. That's one of the benefits of being a successful man. It's probably the primary benefit is you get to just curate who's in your life and who isn't. But I don't think my mom has any problem with anything I say. She may have said a few times, Andrew, you're really making them mad. And I'll say, good, because that's the reason I'm talking at all. Actually think about it. Why do you spend calories talking? If you could set on a bar, on a meter, you could choose how much impact your words had. You'd choose 100%, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you put it up to maximum difficulty? So every time you say anything, it has the maximum impact.
The maximum cut through.
Oh, absolutely. You sit and say, okay, when I say I love you to a woman, I want to have maximum impact. When I say I hate you to someone, I want to have maximum impact. And when I sit and do a podcast, I want to have maximum impact. And when I threaten a man, I want him to have maximum impact. You would go through life with your vocal settings on maximum. So I have curated the way I speak on purpose to make sure that is maximally effective. I choose words and I use tonality, which is deliberately designed to make people, one, listen, and two, think. If that offends people who don't want to think or don't want to listen, then don't listen and don't think.
So you create your character to create cut through in people's lives.
I don't think it's a character. I think it's just sitting down and optimizing things. Like, why would I speak if I'm going to speak on podcasts, or I'm going to speak in my business, or I'm going to speak to women? If I'm going to do anything, you're going to optimize it, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that life? You go to the fight gym and you spar and you lose and you get better. You attempt to optimize it. You try and make some money. You attempt to optimize it. You attempt to grow the number of followers you have on your YouTube channel. When you go out dating women, you attempt to optimize it to get better at it. If I'm going to speak to people, I'm going to optimize it to be maximally effective. I want to be the person who can say less words than everybody else and have a larger impact. That's what I want to do. I've chosen that. I've decided to do that. I understand that to be able to do that, I also need to have a certain persona and a certain capability. It's hard to do that if I'm not financially successful. It's hard to do that if I'm physically weak. If I walk into a room and I want to bellow and I want to sit and talk in a particular manner, but I'm physically weak and broke, nobody gives a shit. But I have real-world accolades. Also, a lot of my real-world accolades are based on the fact that I've suffered and I'm prepared to go through difficult scenarios for the things I've said, which once again adds credence to my words. If I have to go to jail because I talk, people will listen when I talk. Once again, equal and opposite force. So the harder my enemies try to damage me, the more powerful they make my voice in the first place. So this is just a conscious decision. I think most men kind of consciously do it. Every man wants to be more effective. But it's prepared. I don't know how prepared you are on the difficulty meter. As you turn it up to 100, there's another meter. There's a trouble meter that goes with it, I'm assuming. There's a hate meter that goes with it. A lot of people are not prepared to say what they truly think the way they think it because they're afraid of the backlash. They're afraid of what comes online with the he. The only few people you see on the internet talking the truth, a lot of them are anonymous. And I know I keep going back to this. It's an asinine, it's a pretty impotent point. It's something that everybody understands, and it's a bit immature and it's a bit childish, but it's an important point. Women can't drive cars very well. Every man knows it. Every man's seen it. No man will say it. What are they scared of? They are scared to sit and say, I've been in the car with women and they just can't drive. They're afraid. They're afraid of all the backlash. Or if they're going to say it, they'll say, well, you know, some women can drive, and they'll just pussyfoot around like a fucking girl. Think how amazing that is. You want to talk about subduing the masculine essence, subduing the masculine spirit of resistance against the enslavement of humanity. They have men too afraid to even fucking talk. They have you too afraid to even say what you think. You will sit in a car with a woman who can't drive. You will sit in that car while she crashes the car. And afterwards, you'll crawl out of a crashed car. And someone will say, can women drive? And you'll say, well, you know, some can. It's just gay. And it's amazing how subdued the average man has become. It's truly incredible. They're scared of what? Scared of what? So I refuse to operate in that frame. I go through life and I want to leave a footprint on everything. Everyone I've ever spoken to, I want to leave an impression on. Every room I've ever been in, I want there to be energy in the room that people can still feel after I leave. This is why my enemies struggle with certain concepts they're trying to make me understand when they come along and say, oh, carbon footprint. I want to leave a footprint. I want a carbon footprint. If we could measure all of our carbon footprints on a leaderboard, I would be pissed off if I wasn't number one. I want to win. I want a footprint. So that's why they'll never get through to me. That's why they'll never understand me. That's why they see me as a threat. I respect and understand that, but I'm not going to change.
Where's this brigade, this carbon footprint brigade?
Well, Decalt were very interested in that car, and they couldn't get it. And I'm actually quite proud of that after 3.5 years of this garbage, that they never bought my Bugatti, which they asked for and deliberately tried to. That when they bust down this door, they were saying, "Where's the Bugatti?" When they were searching this house, when they found Bugatti paperwork, they put it in a separate pile. They wanted that car. That was their trophy piece. They wanted to take it, and they never did. So the day I'm back in that car in freedom, it's going to be a great day.
Guys, before we go into this podcast is sponsored by contentremoval.com. If you're looking to remove any images, videos, search results, fake accounts, or anything else online, go to contentremoval.com. We've looked after everybody from the likes of Alex Hormozy, Kayla Racines, Tammy Hembrow, to a whole host of other brands and celebrities that you know and love. And we'd love to help you with your issues online. So if you have any issues online and you want to get in touch with us, click the link below this video and go to contentremoval.com.
Because I was with Mike the other week at a party, and he was saying about the day that you filmed that YouTube video. Yeah. And he turned up and he just said something off the cuff to you, and then you said, but I say, what color is your Bugatti? And it just went
mega viral.
Went mega viral.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard for me to go as viral as I used to because I'm pretty canceled everywhere now. They have AI algorithms which detects me and deletes a lot of my videos.
Yeah, I got one of my accounts suspended for using some B-roll of you and the content.
So that's the thing. So it used to be people who would have to suspend me, but now they have AI machines deliberately trained to find me, to get rid of me, to damage my influence. They don't want me influencing people.
But that's not happening on Instagram. It's just happening on TikTok, isn't it?
TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube a little bit, not as much. They're not as advanced. TikTok have really got their act together. But AI is coming to Meta and YouTube, and they'll try and delete me. And perhaps that'll be the end of my internet career. I'm not sure. But yeah, when I used to go crazy viral, it was before the mass cancellations. And now there's AI machines deliberately trained. And we know this because we're combating them. Inside of my school, we have an AI campus. So we're combating AI machines. So we have some of the advanced AI machines inside of my campus, inside of my school, and we'll say, well, how does the AI detect me? And we'll try and put it into our AI algorithms and work it out, and then we'll find a workaround. So at first, we used to invert the videos. We used to invert it so it couldn't detect my face, but it started detecting it. Then we put invert the video. Then we go, okay, well, let's use a cartoon Andrew. And then that worked, and then it started picking up my voice. So we put a voice changer on it. So we got to the point where it wasn't even me. We had to put a voice changer, invert it, cartoon. It's crazy how they got better and better at picking things up. So yeah, they really have put a lot of energy and effort into trying to stop me having influence over the youth. And the primary reason is because I convince people to think for themselves and to say what they think. That's not really good for the society as a whole in regards to if you're in charge of a farm, you really don't want all the farm animals thinking for themselves. Why would you? It's better they all just do as they're told. Right? So there's a huge concerted effort to ensure the majority of humanity, even the few who must escape mentally, they allow to escape, but that the majority of humanity follow in lockstep to their own slavery. There's a huge concerted effort. This is not something which is accidental. This is not something that the liberals just believe because they're silly liberals. There are people who have deliberately designed systems, information, governments, schooling, education, judicial systems, you name all of it. Every single thing comes down to the end of, does this enforce compliance of the populace? And the primary objective of that is that people never wake up and look around and realize they're getting fucked, which is, of course, what you want if you're going to fuck someone over. I mean, if you're going to rob someone's house and you could press a button, they didn't notice anything was missing. That's pretty fucking convenient. It's a lot more convenient than dealing with them calling the police, right? So there's huge concerted effort. So if you're any kind of person who inspires free thought on any level, even worse, free thought coupled with the bravery to say what you're thinking instantly, in real time, well, then you're an enemy to the matrix, you're an enemy to the system. And I notice this all of the time. I notice this all the time. I'll be watching Netflix, and some chick will be beating up some guy, or 10 guys. So one girl will be doing kung fu, beating up 30 men. And I'll just say, this is bullshit. And they'll be like, what do you mean? I was like, this is unwatchable. Never. And people around me, will be confused. Like, what do you mean? But she knows karate. Like, this is just not real life. It's a psyop. You don't realize it's a psyop. You think it's just the stupidest TV show, but it's not. Because there is no such thing as just a silly TV show. It's not just a silly TV show where the women beat up the men, and the women are smarter than the men, and the men are dummies, and in the end, the guy needs the girl to save him, and the guy's gay, and there's a tranny, and none of this is oops. This is written on purpose. And your silly ass is going to sit there and absorb it into your mind until it's normalized. The fact that things need to be normalized at all shows it's not normal. Yeah. That's the whole point. We need to normalize. No, we don't. It doesn't need normalizing, but it's done by the culture. So none of these things are accidental. Creating young men who will watch a woman beating up 30 full-grown men and say, this is bullshit, women can't fight, is a threat to them. So they have to get rid of me. They have to get me off the platform. I completely understand it. It's a war. It's a battle. I don't take it personally. It is what it is.
I was out for dinner last night with a couple of my Romanian girlfriends, and I asked them their opinion on you. Very beautiful, elegant women, and they had an opinion. Obviously, they do. I said, okay, girls, what is your opinion on Andrew? And they started to say that, we don't agree with this, we don't agree with that, this, that, and the other, the normal rhetoric. And I said, have you ever met him? No, never met him. I'm like, well, having an opinion on someone that you've never met is a highly poisonous thing. Like you can't really have an opinion on a man that you've never met. So if you've never met the man himself and he's never introduced you to him, but you've seen one clip on the internet that's told you that he's like that, that's a problem. Is this something you're facing every single day?
Yeah, but it's interesting because in real life, I've never had a negative interaction. I think I've had maybe one, and it was some silly person yelling a comment from afar. In real life, everybody's very nice to me. But yes, what you're highlighting is extremely interesting because if they can evoke an emotional response in somebody regarding someone that they've never met in person, think about the power the Matrix has. It can make you hate someone you've never met based on a tiny little clip with no genuine concept or context of that clip. It's different if you've watched everything someone said, or you've seen that person's political policies and you're unhappy with them, or you've watched them long form, fine. But most people don't even bother to do that research. Most people will see a 4-second clip, they'll read a headline, and they will believe what they're supposed to believe. They will be emotional about that. That's exactly how they got people to get the vaccine in their arm. It's exactly how they convince people to sit there and allow their government to steal all their money. It's exactly how they convince you to believe that for some reason transsexuals need to be talking to your children. It's exactly the same reason they believe you should hate me. It's just all sitting there as emotional arguments. It's emotionalized. That's one of the things when they say I'm a misogynist. I'm not a misogynist. When I say that men should be in charge of certain things, it's because men are generally more logical. Females are emotional. That is their power. I'm not insulting them for that. I love when I see my woman with my children. I love how emotional a woman is. I love how soft and naive and beautiful. That's beautiful. That's attractive. No man wants a woman who thinks logically like a man. We want that innocence. Innocence is attractive. Naivety is beautiful to us. But when you take those things and apply it, the same things that make them beautiful women, the same things we find attractive, the same things that make them good partners, when we apply that to society, now you understand that it's easier to scare them, that you can appeal to them with emotional arguments easier than you can with men. This is why they say I'm a misogynist, because I believe the patriarchy is more protective and more logical and harder to fool. It's harder to fool a group of men than it is harder to fool a group of men and women. Well, why? Because with the women, you can use an emotional argument.
Well, the founder of Telegram, Pavel, got caught out, didn't he? Because of the girlfriend he had on the flight with him was posting on Instagram where they were going.
Well, that's the story. That's right. I don't know if that's exactly what happened, but that's what everyone was saying. You're right, exactly. And if he were to be saying to her anytime, don't post my location, her emotional argument is, oh, no one cares. She just wants Instagram likes. That's all she cares about. She doesn't give a shit who goes to jail. She wants Instagram likes.
But I've walked in here and I've seen you there working with your laptops. I've seen that in my reality. I've personally seen you working. So why do you want so much life admin with all these women and all these wives and all these children? Because that's like life admin 101. Like that keeps you away from what you actually said that you love.
Yeah. There's a cost for everything. If you have a supercar collection, you have to maintain that supercar collection. If you have a female collection, you have to maintain that female collection. It's a nightmare. But you're never going to have anything you care about that doesn't also stress you out. Anything that can evoke an emotional response in you can evoke the emotional response in both directions. There is no light without dark. So why would I do it? Well, females allow me to procreate. Females allow me to have children. So there is an end result. It's not just hedonism.
But the amount of females that you probably date and probably have children with, there's a lot. It's a lot of life admin with that.
It's a lot of life admin. But the best people in the world, what they're best at is basically life admin. I mean, think about, I don't want to change subject from myself, but look at Elon. He's done far more amazing things. He has 11 children from 4 women. He's the best Diablo player on the planet. He owns Twitter. He's going to space. He owns Tesla. He's now working for the government. It's amazing how much you can get done if you're genuinely dedicated to purely working.
But Elon stopped at 4 and Andrew hasn't.
No, I haven't, no. But I'm also not putting rockets in space, so I've got a little bit more time in the day. But yeah, it's life admin, but there's nothing here. Life is admin. Life is rented. I know exactly what you're saying, but I'm saying my philosophy is that you never own anything that you're not renting anyway. Your physical health is not something you have, it's something you rent. If you don't look after it, you lose it. Just like a house, if you don't pay the rent, you lose the house. It's the same with your business. If you don't look after your business, you lose the business, you lose your money. The same with women. If you don't look after the women, you lose the women. So do you have to sit there and attribute value to each thing and work out, is this worth the extra seconds in the day to maintain it? Well, out of the females, at least you can get children, and procreating is one of those important things you can do. So I would argue that having a bunch of women who are prepared to have your children is an asset and an important one.
What was your net worth before you started having the multiple women and the multiple children with those?
Well, that's the problem, because women are expensive. And the reason they're expensive is because time and money are the same thing. And if you're limited on time, the only way you can satisfy a woman you ain't got time for is to give her money. Right? That's the truth. Time and money are interchangeable.
So what's the number?
Well, I've had money for quite a while now. But I'm not saying women are only with me for money either, but I'm saying it's easier to have 20 girlfriends if you're rich. That is true.
Yeah, but how do you define rich? That's what I'm saying. Like, what is the number when because you've lived this life, right? You started.
Well, I mean,
you were worth X amount. You were worth X amount when you started to live that.
Well, I had 2 or 3 girlfriends back when I was broke, but I was with them all the time. So when I was poor, I could be with a girl. I'd be with the girl all the time, or I'd live with her. But then when you get rich, you live with your boys and you do what you want, and you're not with the girl all the time because you don't want to be. So then you have to interchange it with something else. So to answer your question, it depends how many girls you have. It depends how much time you spend with them. You don't have to give girls money if you give them time. The thing is, if you have enough money, you don't value the money, and you'd rather give them money than give them time because you have other things that are more interesting to do or another girl you want to see. So you'd rather say, sure, your rent is paid, stay there, and not see her. Now, I know that's probably counterintuitive to a lot of men out there.
But if you were to give a number.
It's very difficult for me to say. I'm pretty wealthy.
But from your experience, I want the number.
It's hard to say. I don't know.
Is it 1 million? Is it 2 million? Is it 5 million? Is it 10 million? What number is it?
Depends on the girl you have. It's very subjective. I can't answer. It depends on the girl you have. It depends on how much money you give her. It depends on the lifestyle she expects. It depends on how pretty she is. It depends on how much time you spend with her. It depends on lots of things. It's hard to say.
But based upon your experience, Andrew.
My experience is that if you can afford to take care of a woman's life, you get a huge degree of leeway with what you're doing. And when I say take care of her life, I mean if her rent is paid and she has enough money for food and the odd nice piece of clothing and she has a car if she needs one, if you take care of her. So I don't know, in Romania that might cost 5,000 or 6,000 a month. In other countries it may cost 10,000, 15,000 a month. I don't know. But if you have enough money to take care of a woman, you have pretty high leeway. So depending where you live, if you take care of her, you can usually get away with most.
So what you're saying is then, by you moving your life earlier to Romania whilst you stacked your cash and made your money, that allowed you to achieve that earlier. So you achieved that at a lesser net worth than the lifestyle that you want, that you're predetermined in now. You achieved that at a lesser net worth than perhaps what you are right now, obviously.
Yeah, but this is actually a really interesting conversation because you have to be very careful with this because it's easy to be misunderstood. If you're in Dubai and you're just giving girls money and those girls want your money, especially the girls in Dubai, that is what they want. That is very different than a girl who wants your time, does love you, but you don't have the time to give her. So you replace the time with some money. That is very different than giving a girl money who wants money. They have to primarily want your time and want you, but you don't have it to give. So instead you replicate it and you give the next best thing, which is some money or a comfortable life. But I don't think my move to Romania allowed me to do that any easier. Previously, I simply had as many girls as I bothered to have or wanted to have. I just gave my time instead of my money. Whereas now, my time is so valuable. Let's say I have to make $100,000 in an hour. I'd rather spend that hour making $100,000 and give her a $500 present and then bank $99,900 and $500, whatever, and keep the extra money than sit around with her watching bullshit in Twilight because it's a waste of fucking time. So it gets to a point where the return on doing her crap just becomes zero. And it becomes, to a degree, Not saying there's no love involved, because there is love involved, but it does become quite transactional. It does become like, look, I'm taking care of you, everything's taken care of, I'm busy. I love you, you love me, okay, you're loyal, I love you, bang, okay, I'm busy. Because you have more important things to do. Important men have important things to do. The things women want you to do aren't important. Nearly ever. It's bullshit. Now, if they have a loser man, then they'll yell at him to get off the couch, put the video games down, and go get some money. But if they have a man who's going out there getting money, they'll try and yell at him to come sit on the couch and watch a stupid movie. So that's just females. It is what it is. They always want what they haven't got. That's fine. But for you, if you're going to sit there as a completely broke man, the only thing you have to offer a woman is your time. So you're going to have to give it to her. I mean, but if you have other things to offer, especially, and I know this is an unfair comparison to most people watching at home, but I'm also famous and I offer status. If a girl gets to see me once a month, she gets status and I'm famous and she gets a lifestyle and she knows she's taken care of and she's known she's with me. So I get a whole bunch of brownie points that allow me to not use my time. So I'm living in a cheap mode. So because I have to use my time, I can have unlimited. I could have 100 girlfriends if I wanted.
Yeah. Which is a hell of a lot of admin.
Which is a lot. It's a lot of admin. But then you have to decide what you're doing it for, right? So if you're doing it just to show off, I mean, that's fun for a while, but it's really not worth it. If you're doing it so you can fill up a yacht like that, once again, it's fun for a while. It's really not worth it. The only thing that makes any of this worth it is children at the end.
So you know Dan Bilzerian quite well.
Yeah.
Dan's changed his whole thesis on this by living the hedonistic lifestyle. He's obviously getting closer to God now. He's finding God. He's finding purpose. But he says now, he openly said, I saw on the podcast the other week, he's talking about monogamy now. You would never talk about monogamy, would you?
No, I wouldn't. And I know Dan quite well, and I respect him a lot. He's a great guy, and I don't want to speak for him because he's his own man. However, his attitude towards women was never procreation. I think if Dan would have had 20 children across the last 5 years, he would be looking at monogamy right now. He'd actually be very happy with what he'd done, and he'd be considering making 20 more. But monogamy is perhaps what he wants to set up before he creates children. That's his choice.
So where you've approached it differently is you've gone, right, I will date multiple women, but I'll have children with multiple women as well. Whereas Dan said, okay, I will sleep with hundreds of women, but just to sleep.
I'm uninterested in sex for the sake of sex. I think it's pointless. If I'm going to have a girlfriend and we're going to sleep together, there has to be a chance of a child appearing. God can decide, but there should be a chance of a child appearing. That's what sex is for. I don't think it's interesting just in and of itself. I'm really over that. But before I die, I would like to have as many versions of me as possible on the planet. God will decide how many come. Women take 9 months to grow a whole baby because they're slow. That's their problem. And children will be made. Yeah, that's the bottom line. Children will be made.
But good things take time.
Well, yeah, they do. But I mean, I can say some really controversial things. In fact, I'll say them. Let's go. So one of the primary reasons Western society as a whole is failing. One of the primary reasons it's failing is because men have been cucked by women into only having children only then. A woman will come along to a man and say, have my kids. I want kids. We're going to have children. And the man will go, okay, fantastic. And she'll go, but don't have kids with anyone else. And he'll go, okay. And then he'll go and he'll work his ass off and he'll, try his very best. And then she'll say, okay, I need a nanny and I need a bigger car for the kid and we need a car seat and the kid needs to go to piano lessons. We need a bigger house. We need a playroom. And he'll slave away to get 1 or 2 kids out of this woman. And then if he asks her for a third, she'll say no. I don't want to have any more kids. It's too hard. Get pregnant's too hard. And we need another nanny. And I want to go on holiday. And I want a Birkin bag. I want Instagram likes. So this female and her whims, her emotions, her primary concerns, which a lot of the time are just showing off, have limited that man's genetic potential massively. Now, those are the most successful men in Western society. The least successful men don't have that problem. There's brothers on the street with no money, 9 baby mothers, taxpayers raising all of them, doesn't care. So who's reproducing? Think about it. Who's reproducing in Western society? It's not our best. It's actually the opposite. You wonder why immigration rates are getting out of control. You wonder why London's not white anymore. Well, that's because they have kids, the immigrants. And their wives, their women aren't saying, I need a bigger house and a nanny. No, their women just have children because that's their culture, to have kids. That's what they're for. Western women don't think that way. Western women are uninterested in having kids until they're 32. I want to follow my career. What's your career? Instagram? What's your career? You're out every fucking night. Name a career. You haven't got one. What you want to do is follow the money, follow the bag, and go Maldives and take pretty pictures. That's what you want to do. So they're wasting their most fertile years on dumb shit. We talk about the population collapse in the West. This is exactly why. Because men are not like me to sit and say, I want children. I'll have a kid with you, cool. And if you take too long to grow it, listen, 9 months is how long it's supposed to take. Double up. That's your problem. Get it done. If it takes too long, I'll have kids with her. Oh, but I don't want you to. Tough. Because my genetic legacy is more important than your feelings. When I'm dead and gone, they will talk about how many children Andrew Tate had. They will not talk about the fact that some chick cried and told him what to do, and he was scared of her getting mad at me. I'm not afraid of you. So I'm going to have his kids with whoever the fuck I want. Like men have always done. That's all we've ever done. So the Western society now, the females have cupped men into sitting there, only having kids with them. If you have a woman that says only have kids with me, the deal is, okay, have as many as I want. If you'll give me 20 children, if you'll be pregnant for the next 20 years, deal. But if you're going to start saying, oh, one's enough, well then, sorry, the human race needs to, it's more, the human race, females in their narcissism, don't think outside of themselves. The human race and Western civilization is more important than your crybaby feelings. So we need children on the planet. We're literally collapsing. Get over it. That's the bottom line.
So what would you say to all the women listening to this podcast then that are entrepreneurial women that have got these e-commerce brands, they're doing a couple of million, there's quite a lot of women out there that's being successful in business. What would you say to them then? Because they're putting off being a mother to do the business stuff.
Well, I'd say congratulations on their success, and I'd say they should get pregnant at the same time. Think of all the things I can do simultaneously. I can be a convict and one of the most famous men on the planet simultaneously. Elon, as we just discussed, puts rockets in space and owns the largest electric vehicle company in the world. And now he's going to work directly for Doge, cleaning up the government all at the same time. A lot of it's just cope. A lot of it's just excuses. Females, I believe, have, I wouldn't say obligation because that's going to be used against me. But typically it was the men who build and it was the women who provide the children. For Earth. Men build the cities, men build the roads, men build, women give us the children. Well, birth rates are collapsing, and we've built more than we've ever built. So men are doing their job. Men are still building all these things, but we can't seem to get the kids we need. Now, the reason I'm saying all of this, because I know I'm going to be attacked for it, but it is what it is. This is only a Western world phenomenon. This is not the case in many places on the planet. This is what's so interesting when you talk about geopolitics. I have so many people come to me and they're Western nationalists or they're white supremacists. I talk to everybody on all ends of the spectrum. I talk to a hard liberal. I'll talk to a Nazi, far right white supremacist, even as a mixed race man. I talk to everybody. And the white supremacists are saying they don't want Africans coming into their country and they don't want their country to be less white. And I say, well, you don't have a choice because if you let one African couple in, they're going to have more children than 50 of your couple. Like on a long enough time frame, it's just math. It's just numbers. So we now have a society where women have been liberated from their obligation. And we've asked them, okay, you don't have to have children, which is your traditional obligation. What do you want to do instead? And let me ask you, and I'm going to ask you a question now.
Oh, here we go.
What have women have been unchained, unshackled from their original obligation, which was reproduction? What have they done of merit since?
Become real estate agents in Dubai.
Well, there you go. You have Instagram models, you have porn stars, you have girls going to work, doing a job, which truthfully a man could do better, and we all know it. What are they doing instead? That matters as much as children. Or have they done anything at the same level as reproducing?
There's nothing in my mind that matters as much as them being able to have children if they want children.
Absolutely.
I understand that. But I know some phenomenal entrepreneurial women.
Completely.
That listen to this podcast as well that have also done some mad stuff.
Absolutely. And here's
so there's polarity in that.
No, of course, but here's where we get into the difference between the man and the female, the masculine and the female mind, because females will think exceptions disprove the rule. Men don't. When you talk about subjects like this, there's going to be a woman watching this who's very successful who's going to be insulted because she's an exception to the general rule.
Yeah.
But that's not the point. When you talk about geopolitics, when you talk about population collapse across a nation, you can't talk about exceptions to the rule. If I talk about the fact that the Western typical family in Britain doesn't have many children, and that's why the population's collapsing, it's asinine to turn around and say, here's one family that has 10 kids. Yeah, that is one family that has 10 kids. But we're talking geopolitically, and we're talking about society as a whole. We're talking about the trend as a whole. You're right. Some women are fantastic entrepreneurs. Agreed. However, the majority of breeding age females do not have children, not because they're fantastic entrepreneurs. It's because they're doing fuck all. They're scrolling TikTok. They're pissing around. They refuse to have kids. They don't want to. They want Birkin bags and Instagram likes, and they're doing nothing at all important. That's the reality of it. Now, before everyone says I'm blaming women, we can also blame men, because there's a whole bunch of men who don't want to have kids.
Well, men allow that to happen. Men allow them to walk through life and buy the Birkin bags, because if they're an attractive female and that's the kind of life they're living, whether they're living in Dubai, the Miamis, or all these places in the world, and they're living that kind of life, it's men that are allowing that to happen, so it's the man's fault.
There's no light without dark. It's equal the man and the woman's fault. It's equal. It's both sides. I understand why women are going to be watching this saying, well, why would I just have kids with some random guy? How do I know he's going to take care of me? Completely true. You need a man to take care of you, and you need a man capable of taking care of you.
But how can it be a woman's fault? Because a man's men are leading the world and leading life.
Well, we have a lot of girls. Well, we just discussed it, right? We just talked about how they get together with a man and they're going to limit his genetic possibilities.
But that man has allowed her to limit his genetic possibilities. So that man is at fault, not the woman.
Well, and this is the thing, because now you have competing interests. So, and this is the thing that most people don't understand about having genuinely intellectual conversation. When you talk about one subject, now we're talking about female birth rates, right? Yeah. We could talk about it from the perspective of geopolitics. We could talk about the perspective of race. We talk about it from the female perspective, the masculine perspective. They're all different perspectives, and they all have competing obligations. This is what's interesting. So the man, I know what you're saying. A woman will sit and say, well, I can't just have kids with anyone because I need to be taken care of, and I don't just want to be left with a baby by myself. Completely agree. A man will sit and say he doesn't want to have kids for other reasons. And then a country will sit and say, well, we need children, so we have to find a way to make it work. So you have all these competing viewpoints and competing objectives.
But I know that me and you sat here accept that everything in our lives is our fault.
Correct.
Both the positive and the negative.
Correct.
So if that's the truth then, and that's how that you teach every man to live their life,
yeah,
regardless of whether the female decides to have children or not, or this, that, and the other.
It's his fault.
It's his fault.
Well, yeah, because everything I said at the beginning of this podcast about the fact that you get what you deserve from the universe. If you're the kind of man who deserves 20 children, you're going to get them. And if you're the kind of man who doesn't, you're not. I mean, if you're going to sit there and listen to and not be able to find a female to have your progeny, that's your problem. And if the female you're with and spend every day with and walk around IKEA with, picking out fucking towels, won't give you as many kids as you want, well, then you're a dipshit. That's, again, your problem. It's not my problem, but it's their problem. And I'm just saying, when I was talking from a geopolitical standpoint. I understand why women watching this will sit and say, well, why should I just have children? Have children with who? None of these men want to take care of me. And then we go down the other rabbit hole of why men want to take care of women in the first place. Men want to protect women when they see innocence and naivety and they find that attractive and they want to protect it from the outside world. A man wants to find a woman and say, you don't understand the world. I'm going to protect you and I'm going to provide for you. And I'm not going to allow you to go out there and be coarsened by the earth. I'm not going to allow you to be scarred. If they meet a woman who's already coarsened, they have no interest in protecting and providing for her.
Does the fact that, females have inherently raised their promiscuity in the world, does that's affected a lot of this, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Because
the market value of a quote unquote female would go down if she's been more promiscuous.
Well, yeah, she's been coarsened by life. Her heart's not the same as it was. A woman only falls in love once or twice. After that, it's just pay the bills. So she doesn't love the same. This is what's so interesting about the feminism movement, because feminism, what has it given women? Truthfully, what has it given? Before feminism, a man met a woman, they got married. The man had an obligation to take care of that woman. Even if they argued, whatever. She got pregnant. She went to a house. He had an obligation to take care of her. He wasn't allowed to just fuck around and have all these girls. Feminism gave men that access. By telling women they can choose to do whatever they want and remove their obligations to be housewives and have children, they said, now you can do whatever you want. Well, now women are sitting there going, I can do whatever I want. We all want that guy. Well, then that guy gets all the choice. So now that guy gets to share you all. That was feminism's result. Feminism put women in a position now where they have two choices. They can go and compete against men in the workforce and lose. We can do DEI hires. We can give them HR jobs. We can pretend that they work, but they don't. They'll never get rich like a man will. Or they can go and try and compete for the best men on the planet who have unlimited choice with younger and more beautiful women forever. So feminism's put women in a very difficult position. It was easier before feminism when they knew they had an obligation to just get married and that man had an obligation to take care of them. The whole point of marriage, you talk about promiscuity, the whole point of marriage in the first place was a very simple business transaction. I'll take care of you for the rest of your life, but you're going to listen to me, you're going to give me children, and you haven't been with any other man. That's the deal. If you're coming along as a woman saying, I've been with loads of other men, I'm not going to give you kids, and I don't listen to no man. Well, who is going to marry you? There's no trend. That's why marriage is gone, right? So you're right. We have two different competing sides. As a man, what's the most intelligent move you can make on the chessboard? Let's forget everything I've said that's offended everybody, and let's just approach this as professionals, as thinkers. You're a man. If you tie yourself to one woman, she can financially destroy you. That doesn't sound logical. Why would you do that if you already have sexual access to her? You already have sexual access to her. She's been with a bunch of men before you. She can't truly fall in love anymore because she's had too much heartbreak, because that's what happens. Every single time a woman sleeps with a guy and she doesn't stay with him, she gets a little bit more cold. You're not going to risk your entire net worth on that. You also, if you're the kind of person who's successful, you have access to not only her, you have access to a bunch of females that pretty much look the same as her. You know that you're going to be attractive to females for the next 25 years. She's only attractive for the next 5 or 6 years. And she's saying she won't give you as many children as you want. Why on earth would a man be loyal to or get married to any of these women ever? This is a logical conversation. Because I ask women, what do you offer? Oh, but I'm me. Okay, that's the narcissism they have to operate within, with their head in the clouds. Because they can't answer the question correctly. What do you offer a man enough to make him want to dedicate his life and fortune to you? Now, if you have some exclusives, I've never been on a private jet before. I've never been in a Lamborghini before. I've never been on holiday without my family. I haven't slept with anyone. Fine, now the man gets something that other men haven't got. But even you and I know, as the masculine imperative, we don't want what other men have had. We don't want a used car. We want a new car.
Damages its value.
That's right.
But you say about their narcissism saying, oh yeah, but you get me. But what about them saying that you'd be a narcissist by saying what you're saying right now?
Well, the reason I'm sure they would. And I've been called narcissist a few times, believe it or not. But the difference is a man protects and provides. He gives genuine provision, which can be measured in the materialistic world.
I think what you're trying to say is here.
No, what I'm trying to say is a woman will say, you get me. And you'll say, what does that mean? And she'll go, I send you funny TikToks. Great. You get me. What does that mean? Your rent's paid. You're on jets. You get to fly around the world. Any problem you have, I fix it. You're physically safe. Like there's a list of real things if you're with a billionaire man. Whereas a woman is just a you get me. What does she give you? She gives you sex, back rubs, some happy messages, which is nice. I'm not saying that's insignificant. I'm not even saying that's unimportant. I'm saying that most women can't even explain to you why they're a catch. They just go through life only being judged by their looks. That's all they have, their looks. That's all they want to have, their looks. They keep sleeping with guys and they don't realize why it doesn't work out until they become heartless and bitter, and then they chase the bag and try and just get some money before they get old and ugly. That's just what happens. Feminism did that.
In terms of a man's value and a woman's value, from your perspective, what are the prime ages for a man and what are the prime ages for a woman?
I think men are more attractive when they are wiser and established. I mean, what does a woman find attractive in a man? She finds charisma and security and financial capability, wisdom, knowledge, humor. All of these things take time to build. So men are more attractive, and they're probably the most attractive 35 to 50 maybe. Whereas what does a man find attractive in a woman? Naivety, innocence, fertility, inexperience, innocence. Innocence is the key one. Men love an innocent woman. They don't want a woman who understands the game too well. They love innocence. But women don't stay innocent for very long because men fuck them over. And life fucks them over. I'm not being anti-women. I'm just commenting. So a woman's going to be attractive younger than a man is.
And what you just said there is so true, because the woman got damaged because ultimately a man fucked them over.
100%.
So it goes back to our point originally, which is like, ultimately it falls down to the male responsibility to set the standard.
Well, this is the point. No. I'm going to argue with that. Because we talk about the male responsibility to set the standard. I'm going to argue with that because it's only feminism that allowed this shit to happen in the first place. She wouldn't have been fucked over if she married a man at 18 and her and that man stayed together forever like they used to. Feminism giving them these choices and opening up society to a sexual free-for-all.
But feminism wasn't created by women, was it?
Well, we can go down the Jewish question. We can if you want to get banned. If you want to get banned. But feminism is embraced by females. Every single female you ask, she'll say, I'm a feminist. And I'm saying if you ask them, what has feminism given you? They can't answer.
I understand the whole narrative, but let's just focus on that initial question. Me and you both know that feminism wasn't created by women, it was taught to women. And the people that created feminism were male, right?
Yep.
You agree?
Yep.
So it's a male problem, regardless of race or whoever created it.
No,
we mean you both know where that came from.
But it's not a problem. I'm not talking about it as a problem. I'm just commenting on society as I see it. It's not a problem for the top tier men. The situation I've just designed and just described.
It is a problem for the 90% of men that
it's
can't.
It's a problem for the men who can't compete, but it's absolutely fantastic at the top.
Yeah.
You get unlimited sexual access with no time commitment, no obligations. It's absolutely fantastic at the top. Of course it is. And just like it's pretty good to be a pretty woman. It's just harder for the other ones. I mean, that's the game, right? What I'm saying is the idea that when we were just talking about a woman getting screwed over by life and losing her innocence, completely. But feminism allowed this to happen. Feminism has just opened up the world to a sexual free-for-all. And this sexual free-for-all doesn't benefit women because birth rate's plummeting. It doesn't even benefit society. Now, I'm sitting here as a person who would genuinely not like to live in a very strictly monogamous society. So I'm not even talking about myself. I'm not preaching. I'm just commenting on society as it is.
At what age did monogamy start or stop making sense to you?
I don't think it ever made sense. I don't think it makes sense to any man, biologically.
But you're taught it from a young age. Like my mum and dad have been married for 44 years. I think the days of that happening now are gone.
Well, that's right, because you have culture and you have biology, and they're different things. I think masculine biology is different. I think also top-tier males have always been the same way. Even back in the day when we talk about monogamy, kings have always had multiple wives. Kings have always had mistresses. Kings always have. So again, it depends where you are on the pecking order.
How many wives did your dad have, though?
Say again?
How many wives did your dad have?
I have no idea. I'm sure he was busy. I mean, he wasn't home very much. But, I mean, I'll talk to a dude and he'll be like, I love my wife. I don't want anyone else. That's fantastic. That's great. Then that's your prerogative. I'm not telling you have to go fuck. But the truth about people who say that most of the time is that they can't. Remember, I used to have my webcam business, right? I used to be involved in this industry. The worst men on the planet are the loyal husbands. The man will sit there and go, I love my chick, I'm loyal. The second she goes to bed, he's logging into all these websites looking at the most fucked up shit possible. Because biologically, he actually wants more and he can't get it. There's a huge confusion in the world today between men who are loyal because they say they want to be loyal and men who are loyal because they have no choice. If you go into a store that sells bananas, and that's all it sells, and you buy a banana, you can't say you like bananas. There's no options. If you go into a store that sells everything and you walk out with a banana every day, then you can say you're loyal. Most men who are loyal physically simply have no options. The men who do have options are different. And I will tell you something about females, especially the ones who are smart. There are women out there who say, look, I would rather be with a man who is honest, who is open, who I know is not going to fall head over heels with some chick just because her tits are big and she's a little bit young, who I know loves me because I've stood by his side for 10 years, even if he's not sexually exclusive. Then I go be with some Mr. Nice Guy, hold hands, Mr. Romantic, I'm loyal to my wife, and the second he gets a bit of female attention, he disappears. Because that's what they all do. Those are the ones who fall in love with side chicks. Real G's don't. So this whole idea of what is loyalty? Let's break it down. We're having a conversation now about loyalty and how it affects society.
Guys, over the last 5 years, you've watched me travel around the world building this podcasted in 9 countries with over 200 entrepreneurs. And one of the key things that I've learned is that every single one of these successful people have a playbook. They have a play-by-play of how they're going to operate their life, their mindset, and everything else so they can scale. So they can scale their money, their business, their life, and everything. I want to break that down for you. So what I've done is I've set up a weekly email that's going to be going live week in, week out, giving you a play-by-play of some of the most top entrepreneurs in the world so you can understand how they're executing on their plan so you can execute on it too. If this is something that interests you, click the link, sign up to the email below, and that'll be coming out weekly.
Well, we need to be professional and go back a level. What is loyalty? Is a man loyal to his wife when he's logging into porn every night? Is a man loyal to his wife when he wants to fuck something and can't? Is he loyal because his dick doesn't go anywhere, but by her discretion as opposed to his own? All these men saying, I'm loyal to my wife. You're a fucking dork, bro. You couldn't get a chick if your life depended on it. When your wife leaves you and you start trying to message these girls on Insta, you're going to get blanked. You're probably messaging them already. You're loyal to your wife because no one's replied to your DMs. That's not loyal. You're just failing.
How would you tell them to change the narrative?
No, but this is what is so interesting to me. When you talk to these men or whenever you discuss these things with men who say, I'm loyal, they haven't even got any options. It's like talking to the broke guy. I'd never buy a Ferrari. Bro, you have no fucking money. Nobody cares what you'd buy. You can't buy one. So your opinion is irrelevant. Now, if you talk to all of the very successful men, you live in Dubai, go to Dubai, go talk to all of the successful men. What will they all say? The same as me or the same as Jackass who says he wants to be with one girl his whole life?
Well, a lot of the men that I speak to have the ability to buy a Ferrari. So if they choose not to buy one, it's out of a choice, not a necessity.
Correct. The point I'm making is that if you go to a place like Dubai or Miami, these places where it's hyper-capitalistic, you will see a very rich man with a whole bunch of pretty girls on his table. Every time. Every time. You will not see a man with just his wife. Maybe you will at dinner sometimes. But if he goes to the club, sometimes, not all the time, sometimes, he'll go on a yacht, sometimes. This is life. This is what successful men do. This is life. As a female, you can make a choice. You can say, look, I want a loyal loser, or I want to share part of a winner. I mean, females have the prerogative. Women say all the time, I just want a loyal man who cares about me. They're everywhere. They work in Starbucks. Off you go get one. Go buy a latte and take Mr. Minimum Wage, and you'll get everything you want. He'll give you all his time. He'll give you all his attention, and he'll never cheat because he can't. You don't actually want that, do you? You want a winner. Well, think about the mentality of a winner. How do you even win in the world today? You win in the world today by ignoring paradigms, by ignoring the rules, by ignoring what the Matrix wants you to do. You win in the world today by being assertive, by being greedy. You win in the world today by being the exact kind of person who can't be told what to do, does what he wants, and always wants more. That's how you become a winner. So you're surprised that a winner wants 20 girls on his table. That's his whole personality. If he didn't want 20 girls on his table, he wouldn't want 20 million in the bank. And he wouldn't want 20 cars on the drive. And you wouldn't be with him.
So you almost need the pursuit of the women as well to keep you wanting to pursue
I don't
everything
pursue
else.
women. I don't pursue women. I'm on a generational streak of reproduction. I'm the repopulator of Earth. I'm going to save humanity. I don't pursue women. I don't talk from my own perspective. I'm just talking as an observer. A lot of people struggle to do that. I will sit and look at a situation and just talk about all the different sides. There's a triangle, and I will talk from all 3 points about what we see in the middle.
Because you've been at every level of it.
Well, it's just how I see it all.
Because you've been broke and not had access that you have now.
Yeah, correct.
And
now I've been rich.
And now you've been rich.
Absolutely.
Now obviously, being rich is inherently better. But there might be people that listen to this that are starting out broke. What would your advice be then to the people that are broke listening to this, or the men that don't have the access that you're talking about right now? How can they start to get their access? How can they start to get themselves together so they can have the access?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I've been at all levels of it. But I also talk from the female perspective as I understand it. So I do my very best. I think everything I've just said is only the tip of the iceberg. I could talk about this forever, but it's probably going to give me enough smoke. So I'll wait till I've beaten this case and we can continue. But to answer your question, what I'll do is I'll answer with a thought paradigm. I'll answer with a way that you should construct your thoughts in general, which a lot of people don't do. If you're going to make a chess move, you need to look at the board, which is amazing that most people don't ever want to look at the board. They need to make a chess move, so they just move. If you play an amateur at chess, they'll just randomly move something. And you'll say, why did they move it? Oh, I don't know. But you can't win that way. You play a grandmaster, the first thing he does is stare at the board. So it doesn't matter if you're entering the dating market or business or the online, anything. You need to analyze the grounds, right? You need to understand where you're going. If you're going to go to battle, the first thing you're going to do is look at a map and see the geography. I'm talking from a perspective outside of myself about the current dating market, the world we live in. The dating market in Dubai is very different than the dating market in Nebraska or Vladivostok or Japan. In Japan, your family may find you somebody. In India, it may be linked to your caste. In Dubai, it's all about the money. Same in Miami. In rural Nebraska, you may have just met your high school sweetheart. Who knows? It's down to you to look at the board and then decide, how do I position myself to try and win this game? Right? The way I would try and find a wife in Dubai is completely different than the way I'd try to find a wife somewhere else.
You'd find a wife in Dubai?
I don't think so. But if I wanted to, it's a different game. You have to understand the board before you make a move on it.
You and I both know there are no wives in Dubai.
Well, this is it. So why? This is the point. This is the exact point.
So I wouldn't be trying to play the wife game in Dubai.
So what game are you playing?
Well, not the wife game.
Well, that's it. So there's only 2 other games, which is hedonism or reproduction. And I decided that reproduction And perhaps this is cope.
What game?
No, but all of us, I don't want to make something very clear for everybody watching at home. Every single person copes. Every single person rationalizes their own decisions. Every single person comes up with a good excuse in their mind for why they do what they're not supposed to do. Every single person does. Everybody will go out there and do something that they know perhaps the Bible or the Quran says they shouldn't do, but they'll do it and they'll rationalize it. Perhaps I've rationalized promiscuity, saying, but I'm creating children. I'm not hedonistic. I'm creating kids. I'm a good person. But am I? Or do I just want all those beautiful women to adore me? We have to analyze. I'm being as a professional. You have to look at both sides of the coin.
I think that at some part in your earlier days, there was perhaps a woman that maybe rejected you when you didn't have the money, maybe chose someone who was richer than you, potentially back in the day. And potentially you thought to yourself, do you know what, I'm going to elevate my character, I'm going to elevate my status, and when I have the money and when I have the power, I'm going to use it and I'm going to take it further forward.
Well, I think every man has been rejected by women.
It's a rite of passage.
No, yeah, exactly, of course. Every man's been rejected by women. I can't say I haven't lost women because I'm 37, so I've lost hundreds of women. I don't think there's one in particular. However, every man has been rejected by women, that's true. But you can take that paradigm and you can apply it to nearly anything in life. You become a better fighter after you get knocked down. You become richer after you can't afford to eat. You become better with women after you get heartbroken. That's just the masculine experience is based within suffering anyway. You fail at something and you try again. That's the masculine experience. This is why men and women think so differently, because everything I said about innocence, you don't want a woman to be coarsened. So you don't want her to have experience of life, because if she has experience of life, life is suffering and life is pain. If she goes out there into the world to experience things and become knowledgeable in and of herself, there's no way she can do that without becoming harder and less soft, because the world is so vicious to people. So as a man, you become a better man by suffering, whereas a woman becomes a much worse woman by suffering. So as a man, what you actually want to do is go through so much suffering that you become such a fantastic man that you can find a woman who's never suffered and prevent her from ever suffering. So I'm going to be called all the horrible names for this podcast, but truthfully what I'm saying is a man should suffer and go through so much pain and agony that he becomes such a fantastic man that he could find a woman who's never had to suffer ever and ensure she never does. That's the ultimate protection and provision. That's the way the balance works.
So the scars make the man better in a lot of areas of his life, whereas scars make women harder in the emotional element.
Well, scars aren't attractive. Do men find scars attractive on women? No. Do women find scars attractive on men? Yes. And that's even in the physical manifestation of what we just discussed from a psychological perspective. So it's literally just the way it works. A man used to have to go away to war and come back a war hero to find a wife who's never been to war. You don't want a wife who's been to war. Nobody wants a wife who's been to the trenches. You want a man who's been to the trenches and survived. Yeah. This is the dynamic, right? So, I mean, we look at the Dubai market, it's very interesting, but you have all these women out there with a whole ton of experience. They're becoming coarsened by it. And when I say coarsened, I'm not saying they're bad people. I'm saying that it's very hard for them to fall in love deeply because they've been on X amount of boats and X amount of supercars, slept with X amount of men on X amount of private jets, X amount of trips. And you're going to come and pick them up and you're going to try and get some genuine emotion from their hearts, but it's all just been squeezed dry. There's nothing left.
It's desensitization is what's happened.
Completely.
You get desensitized to a certain level of life, and once you've lived it, and once you've seen it so many times at that level.
Even more importantly, you get desensitized to the idea of losing your man. When a woman loses her first boyfriend, it's a heartbreak. It's Taylor Swift. It's 2 years by herself. It's crying every day. It's writing in her diary. It's a big deal. Women become desensitized to losing their man. By the time they lose their 10th man, they don't give a fuck. And they're out in the club next day getting a new man. And before you know it, that's how it goes. And you can call me every name under the sun. Let's do a scientific experiment. How long does it take a woman to go over her first boyfriend compared to how long does it take a woman to go over her 10th boyfriend? Yeah. Now, I don't think men are actually like that. I think men, if they can truly love a woman at any level, you can sleep with 1,000 women and you cannot give a shit about number 798 to number 812. And the number 813 you can be obsessed with, and then you can lose her and be upset about it. And then you can go back to 814 up to 903 and not give a shit again. Men, no matter how many women we sleep with, retain the capability and ability to fall in love with the right woman because we fall in love via their innocence. If you give a man, no matter how many women he slept with, a good enough woman, he will fall in love with her anyway. Whereas a woman can't. If a woman slept with enough men, you can give her the best man and she will never fall in love with him because she's broken now.
The women that I've fallen in love with in life,
are always the ones that have cost me the most stuff, you know, and taught me that they teach you a lesson in that.
That's where the scars from.
There's a lesson in that. You need a little bit of heartbreak. You need a little bit of emotion in there. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that the true red pill is that the heartbreak part is the best part.
Yeah.
That's the real love. The whole holding hands, everything's happy, we're out at dinner, smiling, laughing. No, that's boring. The true memory of love, the actual real fun part of the love is the part where you feel the deepest, and you feel the deepest when it goes wrong. Yeah. And we can apply that to everything. That's the funnest part of life. The funnest part of life. It's never fun at the time, but in retrospect, when you want to use hindsight and analyze your entire life via the lens of your mind, when you go back in time, those bad times are the best times. Yeah. I miss jail. It was shit. But now me and Tristan's all we talk about because you get a strong visceral emotion from it. So it's a happy memory.
There's a few stories that you're not telling about jail.
There's a lot of stories. There's a lot of stories I'm not telling about jail.
I might go back. There's a few stories about female prison guards that I've heard that may or should be told on this podcast.
Guys, I hope you got value from this podcast. And if you did, hit that subscribe button and turn the bell notifications on. But guys, I've got these videos here that will take you to a whole new level as well. So don't sleep on these.